Courtland Simmons with you here at the CS Racing Report, and this is the recap for the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes. And of course, it was a race in which Enable was trying to run into the history books to become the first thoroughbred to win what's really pretty much the Arc de Triomphe, the Epsom Derby, the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships, all rolled into one, that being the King George and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes, trying to become the first horse to win this race 3 times. She was already in esteemed company, being a 2-time winner with Dahlia and Swain. She came in here, expected to run against 7 others, including her stablemate, Fannie Logan, and the Super 6 of Aidan O'Brien. It was supposed to be that kind of a duel. Things broke down, and it went from being an 8-horse field to a 4-horse field, and then 2019 Epsom Derby winner Anthony Van Dyke defected with basically unsatisfactory blood results, according to Aidan O'Brien. So he was withdrawn from consideration, leaving it up to Japan, who was third behind Enable when in her first run in the ECLIPSE Stakes, a race won by Gaeff, and 2019 Irish Derby winner Sovereign, who was expected to set the pace after coming from behind in his first run since the Irish Derby at the St. Ledger distance of 14 furlongs in the Vintage Crop Stakes. So all that put together, it looked like a race on paper if you watch my preview pod, in which I thought that Enable would sit off of Japan, who would stalk his stablemate, and then she would make a run in trying to basically track down and run and mow down the 2 O'Brien runners. That's what the thinking was, but in the end, Enable took on basically the stalk and pouncing behind Sovereign, who was able to basically casually go out to the lead, and then he started picking up the pace. And meantime, Japan sat behind Enable, and I think it was because Enable broke nicely, and Japan never really got in a position where he could advance past Enable or be in tandem with the eventual winner. And then when they hit the turn, Sovereign opened up 4 or 5 lengths, and this is when, as the race announcer called it, the die was cast, when Enable basically made up all the ground. Her 2 strides her 1 stride seeming like 3, and she was on top of and blew by Sovereign in what was really what I would call sort of a supersonic type of performance, as I always mention. She went on to open up to win by 5.5 historic lengths in 2:28.90. I think that's a pretty good time, all things considering, the rain beginning to pelt down as they entered the starting gate. So it wasn't deemed to be officially yielding, but there was a little bit of moisture in the track. I don't think it cost Japan, who was beaten by 11 lengths in this race, as Sovereign was 5.5 lengths in front of his stablemate for the runner-up spot. And I thought he ran a very, very good race, all things considered. This puts him in the ball game for some Group 1s. Enable's not going to run in all of them. So I think he has the opportunity to chase some Group 1s and then, contemplate whether the Breeders' Cup and perhaps maybe a run at some of the Asian targets, either in Japan or Hong Kong, are feasible. As you can see, some of the races I think Sovereign could run in. Japan, like I said, he's gone sour. I didn't think, as a lot of prognosticators have mentioned, he's gone sour. And I really personally think that you could freshen him up and possibly make a last-ditch effort to make a go of it at the Arc de Triomphe. But I think, to be quite honest with you, that the best bet for him is to get out of Europe. I think right now, you freshen him up, you look at the Canadian International, the Shadwell Mile, which is going to be run, as it always is, at what this year is going to be the host site for the Breeders' Cup Keeneland. That's probably off the table. That's a race that fits Sovereign more if they wanted to shorten him up and cut back in distance, as well as Serpentine, the Epsom Derby winner out of the O'Brien barn. But Sovereign has the versatility, both he and Serpentine, to be front-running threats in the Breeders' Cup Turf, a race in which I believe a lot of these wonderful fillies, I mean, it's not just about Enable. It's these other fillies. They're fantastic, even Magical. Even despite the fact she's been beaten 5 times by Enable, 4 of those resulting in wins for the champion. She's, looked really, really good. Won the Tattersall's Gold Cup at press time a few hours after or a day after Enable ran into the history books. Fannie Logan, Enable's stablemate, was impressive in the Hardwick Stake. You got Love. As you look at the targets that I think are feasible for both Fannie Logan and Magical, I also think that Love has some, options. It looks like she will face Enable in the Yorkshire Oaks on the same card as the Juddmonte International, or the International Stakes at York, a race in which Magical is being targeted for. But at some point, these fillies are going to meet, although I will say that John Gosden is probably going to, have a separate program for Fanny Logan. And I think as you see the targets that I think are feasible for, that could include a run over the Longchamp surface in the Prix Vermeil, and then she runs in the Grand Prix del Opera on the same day as the Arc, rather than try to go against her stablemate and possibly keep her from trying to make history of being a three-time Arc winner. It's going to be tough enough trying to be, being tackled by the O'Brien group of horses in whatever combinations, in addition to some other entities that are going to be entered in Paris for that race, should be able to stay sound and make it to the Arc. But again, the targets are reasonable. It's going to be very intriguing to see where these horses go. I can tell you right now, as far as the Breeders' Cup goes, Fanny Logan, Magical, and Love are comprehensive top choices, whether they are separate on their own, going about it solo, or if they run in the pairs, in either the filly and mare turf, or as a triumvirate in the filly and mare turf and the Breeders' Cup turf against males. I think they have earned that. They are probably better than the American horses, although there are some good horses out there, and we're certainly going to look into that and analyze that as time goes along. But I thought Sovereign's run was good. Japan, as I said before, I think the best bet for him, as you look again at his targets, would be to go to the United States. I do think that Sovereign and Serpentine could also be effective. A race like the Canadian International could fit all of these horses. And then the fillies, like I said, they could probably go ahead and pursue the grade 1s and high-end grade 2s before and then after the Arc de Triomphe or Arc weekend, if a couple of these break off and run the Grand Prix del Opera, then we'll see what the options are for the Breeders' Cup. But meantime, Enable, what more superlatives can you put on her? She's incredible. She's explosive, dynamic, talented, all those great things. But last but not least, she's a legend as she steps into the history books by 5 comprehensive and authoritative lengths in 228.90 over Sovereign, who was 5.5 lengths in front of the disappointing Japan. Enable, the 3-time winner of the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes, the incomparable, the incredible, the fastest femme fatale on the planet. Let's take a listen.
It's Enable by 3 lengths inside the final furlong here. Ulysses can make no further impression, and this fabulous filly, a Dual Oaks winner, and now Enable as the King George. Enable making rapid progress down the outside. Enable on the outside of Crystal Ocean, and these two are kicking away from Valgeist in third. Crystal Ocean will not give in. They go head to head, toe to toe. She's just in front. Enable racing up towards the line, and she'll win a second King George. What a race! That was a horse race. Enable coming there pretty strongly and cutting back the deficit very quickly indeed. And Enable is cantering, and Frankie Dettori looks around to his left, a long leering look, and Japan, and now Enable is sent about her business and strikes on passing the furlong marker.
Sovereign and Japan have played their parts, but it's now all about one filly carving her name in history.
And she goes 3-4 lengths clear. This magnificent mare, a mare in a million, a mare in 10 million.
Enable moving away for a record-breaking third King George.
One of the great champions of the sport. History is made at Ascot.
Frankie Dettori, John Gosden and Khalid Abdullah. Enable is a 3 times winner of one of the major races in the calendar and hardly had to break sweat in the race to do so.